Standing Orders Subcommittee. Meeting isn't being live streamed, but we will record it and, as Vlad says, upload it to YouTube at some point today. Good practice as ever, mute microphones, switch off your video when you're not speaking. If you want to use speak in the Teams chat function, that's fine, or a raised hand would be equally suitable. I won't go through the rest because you all know the drill, but when referring to reports, please provide the reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow, and focus your contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. So with that, we'll move on to item 1, Sediment apologies and Chair's approval of members' remote participation. Claire, can you provide the sediment and apologies, please?
Okay, thank you. We've got 6 members present this morning. Yourself, Chair, and Councillors Johnston, Brodie, Campbell, Marshall, McFarlane all present on Teams. Councillor Wood not present. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Claire, and I approve members' remote participation as well. So moving on to item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest? Nope, nobody indicating. Good. So item 3, minutes of previous meeting of 7th of June 2024. Can we approve the minute?
Agreed.
Excellent, thank you very much. And moving on to item 4, Licensing Scotland Act 2005, the Act, establishment of a single Dumfries and Galloway Licensing Board, report by Assistant Director, Governance and Human Resources. So Vlad Valiente and Sharon Davidson are here to assist if members have any questions. Vlad, I take it there's nothing you'd wish to add to the report?
I'll just highlight a couple of things. Probably the first one is full council took a decision to move into one licensing board, and thereafter the next step is in essence looking at the scheme of delegations, which is the report that you've got in front of you. In particular, I would highlight that we've got obviously the reduction from licensing boards plural to licensing board. That's quite obvious, hopefully, in the appendix. But within that appendix for the proposed wording, we've tried to encapsulate for members what the sentiment was in terms of the discussions that have been had through that governance decision making, which is that there should be an element of locality, and therefore under 410.4 we have tried to come up with some wording that hopefully will be acceptable to members in that regard. And I'll just read that out just for clarity. That is to ensure each area is represented locally. At least 2 members from each previous divisional board area, Wigtown, Nithsdale, Annandale, Nithsdale and Stewartry, should be elected to a single licensing board where possible. And that's the key element, where possible, because we know that that might not always be possible. That's it, Chair.
Good, thanks very much, Vlad. With that, I'll open to members. Councillor McFarlane, morning, Andy.
Yeah, good morning, Chair, and thanks for that, Vlad. And actually on that point, it says that 2 members, it's really just for clarification, ensure there is represented 2 members from each. I'm assuming that's similar to what we have in the LRB, whereby we would have members who are nominated to the board but aren't obviously required to attend in each case, because it says that minimum of 5, maximum of 10. Obviously, if there were 5 areas and we required 2, there would have to be 10 each time. So just that point of clarification, please.
Shall I turn to Sharon or Vlad? Vlad, you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, through yourself, Chair. I'll maybe come in and Sharon might clarify. It's more about appointing to the board, and probably in a similar vein to what you described there, which in essence is there's no requirement at the actual meeting to have that level of representation.
Good, you quite happy with that, Andy?
Yeah, thanks, Vlad. It's as I thought, but just to put it on record.
Good, thank you. Councillor Campbell, morning, John.
Good morning, Leader. I welcome the report. I'm pleased it's come forward, and I'm pleased that we're taking this forward in the vein that it's meant to be. On the appendix, I know it's just a sort of like a, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's an exercise of just tidying up the wording, in particular when it comes to the scheme of administration and delegation. I've no issues with the wording, but I did make a query yesterday, and it might be helpful if all members, and including when the public get to see this, that about the board is required to have a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 10. Now, my understanding is that it's the Act that dictates the maximum, unlike some of the other committees that we have as a council, where we could have a council of 21, for example. And obviously, I had that cleared up, but maybe it would be helpful if, either Vlad or Sharon would put that on record. If a scenario occurred and we only get the minimum of 5, hopefully we'll get the maximum of 10. But if we do get a minimum of 5, obviously that's going to be crucial when it comes to being quorate. My understanding that the quorate will be 3 if we have a minimum of 5 members put the names forward. Just on that point. And excuse me. And the other thing was that 4.10.6, all board members, whether appointed for the first time or reappointed, must pass the mandatory training. I'm sure this was raised at the last full council as well, Leader. So it maybe just get a bit of clarity on that as well. Just on those 2 points, if you can, please. Thanks.
Thanks very much, John. Yeah, certainly the training is something that I've raised with Vlad, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous that I've had to do so much training for boards over the last 17 and a half years, and it's exactly the same test every single time. So yeah, but I'll turn to Sharon, I think, to pick up on the points of the change of wordings.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, we can certainly add that in so that it makes it clear to members that this isn't a local decision, that the legislation actually requires us to have that minimum and maximum number of members. So that's certainly not a problem, that can be added in. And again, just in relation to the training point, yeah, we do take that on board. Unfortunately, the legislation is quite clear. It's not a decision that we can take locally. Unfortunately, it is a requirement before members can participate in any board business. And I think Vlad's got his hand up. I think we were going to look at possibly lobbying in that respect, because it's a lot of expectation on members as well. So yeah.
And the point around the quorum, can we just incorporate that in there, that the quorum is a minimum of 3 if 5 are present?
Yes, certainly. I can add that in.
It's a minimum of 3 for the 5 number. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's 50%, or where it's an odd number, it's you round it up. But I will certainly we can add that in and make it clear that what the quorum is in respect to the boards. Yeah.
Good. And before I turn to Vlad, is this something that we should be maybe lobbying through COSLA? Because I suspect that 31 other local authorities have exactly the same problem and same concerns. And we have aired certainly recently that the nature of the test as well, when you're not doing it in the room, has become quite insulting, I think would be the word that I would use, that you have to crawl underneath your dining room table with the phone to ensure that nobody's there helping you, and that you have transparent cups, and yeah, we're our own data protectors, and I personally found that quite unsettling. So anyway, Vlad, I'll turn to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the first point on the lobbying front, we'd already taken an action on that, and yes, I think through COSLA it's also another angle we can pursue. Obviously, we were mainly looking at our colleagues through Solar, who are obviously heavily involved in that part of it. In terms of Councillor Campbell's question, I think it's a really valid point, and I think we'll encapsulate that for the full council report, just to spell out the Licensing Scotland Act specifically states that kind of fewer than 5 or more than 10. So I think the Schedule 1 is specifically, I'll just read that out for recording purposes. A licensing board is to consist of such number being not fewer than 5 and not more than 10 of members as may be determined by the relevant council. So that's very specific in terms of legislation, and equally the training part would require to be amended in the legislation, as that's also encapsulated in the Act, and it requires all board members to undertake the required training within 3 months of appointment. So that's the parts that I think we can lobby for change in terms of ensuring that where members have already had the training within, you know, a specified amount of time, for example, then you won't need to do that again, because you've not long done it, and you're being asked to do it again. Happy for those actions to be captured and for us to take that forward on behalf of members.
Thanks, Vlad.
Thanks, Leader.
Councillor Brodie. Morning, Richard.
Morning, Leader. Thanks for Val, and thanks for confirming that the maximum minimum numbers are statutory led, and also that the training is mandatory, because I certainly went through the first examination, but I decided not to go for the second examination on a sort of principle basis. So thanks for clarifying that, and hopefully we can lobby to get that changed. The question is on the representation from each divisional board. Obviously, we're aspiring to get two members per area, which obviously is not going to be feasible if there's only 5 people on the board at that time. The question is, we said that we're aspiring to get 2 members, but I think we should try to say at least 1 should be from each area. Is that possible to encapsulate in our rules without breaking government legislation?
Return to Vlad.
Yes, thank you. Through yourself, Chair. Yeah, that's the reason we go through this process of getting members' thoughts on it. What we tried to capture was member sentiment around maintaining some form of locality. What that looks like is for members to decide, and that's not determined by the legislation in terms of at least 2 members per each one of those divisional areas. So that's for members to decide if you wish to have it as 1, to make it in essence a bit more flexible, but just bear in mind that you can appoint up to 10, so they don't all need to be, you know, we don't have to fulfill the 2 per area. It's just that that's in essence the starting point, and if we can't fill it up with 2 from each area, then we would request for membership from some of the areas that have already been captured. So that would be the process. So hopefully that gives enough flexibility there, but happy to change it if members feel that in essence we should just be asking for 1 member per divisional board. But I would suggest that we should aim to have the maximum of 10 all in appointed, because that gives a bit of flexibility, and obviously it means that not all members will be able to attend all meetings of the board, and it just allows for a bit of sharing of that within the membership. So hopefully that's answered Councillor Brodie's question.
Did I come back
Happy with
in?
that, Richard? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, our members happy that we at least have 1 member from each division as part of the 5 or 10. So, and also, following on from another question is, if there's a maximum 10, can we have substitutes who could come in, who could be drafted in if we were struggling to get the 5?
Vlad, I'm not sure about substitutes. I think they have to be appointed, don't they, because they have to do the training. Vlad, I'll turn to you.
Yeah, through yourself, Chair, yeah, absolutely. There's no allowance for substitutes. Hence, our recommendation is that the council should appoint 10 members, which in essence gives that flexibility. Again, if members are unable to attend, then if we had 10 members, the quorum would be 5. So that would hopefully allow for that licensing board to take place based on that.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other members. Are you okay with that, Richard? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, good. I don't see any other members wishing to come in at this stage, so we'll turn to the recommendation. We've been asked to consider and comment on the proposed amendments to the scheme of administration and delegation to committees, as outlined in the appendix to the report, and thereafter, subject to any considerations, agree to recommend approval of the proposed amendments to the 3rd of October 2024 full council, with the actions and the comments from Councillor Campbell being incorporated within that appendix. We all happy with that?
Agreed.
Good. Thank you. Vlad?
Sorry, Chair, just for confirmation from an officer's perspective, are members okay with us changing it to at least 1 member from each previous, or do you wish to retain it as 2?
A minimum of, yeah.
A minimum of 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll change that, no problem.
Councillor Campbell?
No, I totally agree with yourself, Chair. A minimum 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter. I think Vlad already outlined the reference in the appendix. It says where possible. And
Yes.
I think even if we have a minimum of 1, it's where possible. We might not even get 1 from each of the localities. Let's put it that way. However,
well, I hope we will.
The wording's okay with me. Let's put it that way. Thanks.
Good. No, I hope we'll get more than 1 from each area. I'll volunteer for my one. Okay, so moving on to item 5, review of standing orders and the schemes. Timeline update, report by Assistant Director, Transport and Infrastructure. And we've got Mo, good morning, online. He's just moved through to another room as well, so we're doing the room shuffle. So Mo's here to assist members if you have any questions. Is there anything you wish to add to the report, Mo?
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll turn to members. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, I welcome this report. Again, it's just looks to me as if it's another tidying up exercise, just to make sure that we're cross the T's, dot the I's. The only thing that I may raise, or at least try and look for clarity, is 3.6 on page 18, and I think it's the second sentence. The Capital Investment Programme Board has been established and has led the development of the gateway process. If we're already doing it, what's changed in this report that we need to sort of recommend to full council? The only thing that I can see is 3.3, and I might be wrong on this, but it's where it says that the approach outlined in full council said that the Economy and Infrastructure Committee would become the single point of overall management. So I think that's where this report's coming from, but a wee bit of clarity on that, Chair, if I may. Thanks.
Thanks very much, John. Vlad, do you want to come in?
Yeah, if that's okay, just in terms of trying to be helpful from a governance perspective. So the board, Capital Investment Programme Board, as Councillor Campbell's pointed out, it's already in place, and we are trying to manage the gateway process through that, and that's absolutely correct, and that's at an operational level. What we require to do now is more at the decision making and in essence governance level of it to marry into that. And therefore what we need to look at is very carefully look at all the delegations right through from officers' delegations all the way to the committees and full council to ensure these are all lined up and match, and alongside that look at the financial regulations because of all the obviously the spending within major projects. They all need to be aligned, and that's the piece of work that we are doing currently as officers, and we'll be taking round hopefully the political groups in due course in order to allow that further discussion as to why we're asking for the relevant change. But it does require us to do that in order that they marry up properly and that members are cited at the right process and time within that gateway process. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thanks, Vlad. John?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Yeah, no, it does make sense, Vlad. I mean, we're already taking a number of projects forward through the Gateway Review anyway, because I'm sure there was one in E&I committee last week. So yeah, as long as it doesn't hamper the process, I think is probably the concern. But yeah, if it's a case of getting all our ducks in a row, that's fine. I'm happy with that, Chair. Thanks.
Good. Thanks very much, John. Councillor Marshall. Morning, Sean.
Morning. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Good. Yeah, just in relation to that, because I look back on the report that went to full council, and I know there is a programme or timetable laid out. I think there is quite a lot that we still have to consider just to make sure this works. A couple of things that I kind of just singled out was obviously E&I committee. They've got the overall management, the capital investment strategy. It did say in one of the bullet points that they're authorised to make funding allocations to and between projects. I'm just wondering, where does the delegation lie for? The first question is, where does the delegation lie if projects go overspend, so additional capital investment? Does that go to full council, or is it enabling and customer services? So that's one point. I think there is as well, I think on the original report, I think it was 4.2.5, it states quite specifically that the Standing Orders Subcommittee have to consider, making recommendation to full council about the authority of the chief executive for I think it's for 250,000 for individual projects. So probably we need to kind of just get a little bit more information on that for members. And just one kind of observation, because we have to get this right, because there is a role for each of the main service committees as well as full council. But observation really from E&I think John and Gail were there, and Malcolm and Richard. I think most of us were there last week, and it was with regards to the capital programme quarterly monitoring report just for E&I. That had 12 recommendations on it. The report and the discussions took over an hour, and I'm just thinking, if in future E&I is to get the full monitoring report for the capital programme, we have to think carefully how that's done. It may be that we need to split it into separate reports for different functions or something like that, because I don't know. I just felt that there was lots of members had lots of questions. I had about 5 or 6 on the same report. So it's something, just to make sure that we do business properly, that we're undertaking the full capital investment strategy. It's important that the reporting is adequate.
Thanks for that, Sean. Yeah, certainly, as you say, that the reports could become quite beefy, and I think that was commented last week that we might need to split them down into specific reports on specific areas. So that'll be something that we'll discuss with Mo and Vlad going forward, just to make sure that everything is being captured and not too clunky. I think the whole point of this is to have a overarching accountability through one single committee, rather than having things sitting in the various directorates, which they will anyway. But if we have an overarching accountability, it will help to sort of manage the programme more effectively. That would be my hope. Vlad, I'll turn to you and then Mo.
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor Marshall's raised really valid points there that we've, as officers, taken stock of in advance of full council and thereafter. So what you had at full council, probably the way I would describe it, is the principles that we're going towards, but we recognise that any changes to that and any revisals to that would require that robust justification and persuasion for members to understand why we're asking for what we're asking for. And that is right through from the relevant delegation the Council Marshal pointed to in terms of the Chief Exec's element of it, right through to which committee or committees potentially will see the overall kind of major projects landscape, but also how does that interplay with specific committees in terms of their particular roles. Obviously, if we look at an easy one in terms of education, they've got quite clearly an interest in the relevant portfolio of schools, and therefore anything that's kind of major projects within that, they would want some form of say in terms of how to drive that. So what we need to do as officers is in essence look at all of those interplays and ensure that we have those discussions with members so that we get in essence get that system right and effective as we can make it within the overall gateway process that we're trying to get to. So what we had in the report of full council is the basic principles of where we're hoping to get to, but we'll need to obviously do our due diligence within that, and that's why you've got that programme in place within paragraph 4.4 of this report, which is in essence how we're going to go about doing that with members.
Good, thanks, Vlad. Mo?
Thank you, Chair. To be honest, I think Vlad's touched on the most of it because we recognise that there is a lot of work there for officers to go away and look at current delegations and as well how to propose how we move forward. And it is a piece of work that is a collective working between officers and elected members, so you will be kept up to date and take you with us in the journey, and we looking as well for feedback because we want to take that into account in the new process going forward. And in terms of the report, yeah, Councillor Marshall, absolutely right. I think it was the feel around the room from officers and elected members. That one was the first one just for us to test the process, but we are fully committed in terms of to revise that and work through it. I don't think even we will get it right for the next committee, 5th November. Maybe it will be further tweaks there. But what we will do, as we said at the committee, we will work with the elected members in terms of the new report and the format that is suitable, and hopefully kind of make that journey a wee bit easy for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me at the moment, it's a case of fine tuning, and as you say, getting feedback from members as to how they want it presented, and what makes it, I suppose, more straightforward to scrutinise and sort of challenge if required. So yeah, I think that'll be a moving feast over maybe 2 or 3 cycles of committees, and if we're not getting it right, then we need to address that. But thank you, Mo. Sean?
Yeah, just to come back on that, Chair, thanks for letting me back. And it's just the general kind of question. The one thing that kind of jumped out at me was with regards to, I can see where you can make changes in the capital programme, which is agreed through full council and budget setting, etc. You can see at E&I that there is flexibility to move up funding allocations between projects. It isn't clear from the report that went to full council if there's additional capital expenditure required. Where does that go back to? Does that go back to full council, or does it go to enabling customer services? I'm just wondering, is there any thoughts on that at the moment? Because naturally we know that the capital programmes usually go one way, which is up instead of down. And I'm just wondering, it didn't seem to cover it in the report to the full council.
Vlad?
Yeah, through yourself, Chair. These are the questions that we've also identified as officers. So Councillor Marshall's hit the nail on the head in terms of we as officers have got maybe different views on that, and therefore what we need to do is streamline that as best we can and then engage members in the conversation. So no decision's been taken on that from an officer's perspective, and therefore what we need to do is that engagement with members, these issues raised through that process, so that we can in essence take a sensible approach and a common sense one as best we can, but recognising that there'll be these intricacies in the interplays between committees, and what we don't want to do is in essence have everything in one committee that then there is no input from others. We want to get that balance right, but what that balance looks like is for members to help us design that. Is probably the best way I would sum up.
Yeah, can I just quickly come back, Chair? It's just, yeah, I appreciate there might be different views on how the officers want to take that forward. It would be good, you know, rather coming to members at the end of that with maybe a decision made by officers, that we understand all the different views and alternatives, because members may want to go a different way from what the final recommendation is.
Yeah, good point. Vlad's nodding if you can't see him. Yeah, good. Sorry, Vlad, you mentioned going round groups. When would that be likely to happen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The timetable is hopefully set out for members' agreement today, which is under 4.4 of the report. And what we would look at is, you'll see there from September to October, this engagement with senior officers and engagement with political groups, and a seminar as appropriate is what we've envisaged. And thereafter, there'll be an ongoing engagement, as you'll see throughout that timetable, but in particular that January to March element of things, as you'll see there, there's another political group. So what Councillor Marshall said in essence will allow us to capture that at an early stage, to go away and further fine tune that and put the final kind of options appraisal, if we call it that, for members, and that full council decision in due course. What we would look to do is obviously go live by the 1st of April because of the financial year.
Okay. Yeah, I know I'm aware of what's down there, but we're on the 10th of September already, and I know that diaries are tight, and if we're looking to, you know, have a seminar, we've got a lot of seminars in the diary, and can we make sure they don't clash with other things, because we've had members that have not been able to attend things. So are we on track for that timeline? Is it realistic, or do we need to tweak it slightly?
I'll maybe see whether through yourself, Chair, Mo's got a view on that, because it'll be mainly coming from that directorate in terms of that engagement at an early stage. My view is that we still have a month or so to get the kind of sense from the political groups and that engagement. The seminar is an option. And the seminar can be recorded as well for members to tap into at any time. I think it's doable, but I don't want to say it's doable for another directorate who will be leading it. So I'll maybe pass the question to colleague Mo.
Okay, Mo, I'll bring you in, and then Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Vlad. Yeah, so it looks as a tight timeline, and it will be challenging, but I think there is enough time for us to get what we need to get out of this exercise. What we will do our best to coordinate the diaries as much as possible, because I appreciate diaries are full with seminars, etc. Even if a seminar not really suitable for members, we would probably be happy as well to do it in separate political groups if it's more suitable, when everybody for each group is around the table. Whatever suits your diaries, members, and we are here kind of to work around your diaries as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm just looking at the timeline, and I've no real issues with what's being proposed here, but I'm just looking at, we've got the engagement with senior officers and then the engagement with political groups, etc., between September and October, and then in November we've got a further report to propose amendments to existing committee scheme of delegation. Obviously that will come out when we have those engagements, and then in December we've got consider any recommendations made by the review of standing orders subcommittee. So that's taken into consideration the proposed amendments, which is fine. Then when it gets after full council in December, we've got further engagement with senior officers and political groups. I mean, I don't know what we're going to glean from that if we're already making a recommendation in December. I'm not sure if there will be an opportunity after those further engagements in January to March, you know, for the fullest recommendations to be brought forward. I wonder if somebody can assist me with that, Chair.
Thanks. Vlad?
Yes, thank you. I'll through yourself, Chair, again, just to absolutely confirm that this is a really tight timescale, and we're trying to work towards that, and obviously we'll keep members on board if for whatever reason we're going to be delayed in the delivery of that. Our aim is to have this live by the new financial year, and that makes sense, and I think by that point it is doable. The further engagement, which is that kind of January to March, is not necessarily to make any further changes to that, because by that hopefully we've already captured members' decision making. It's more about how that will be implemented, and do further work with members if required. It might not be required, but if required, in terms of how that is going to be implemented from the 1st of April. So that would be what I take from the discussions that we've had. I don't know if, I see most nodding, so that seems to be the plan.
Good. Thumbs up, John?
No, I'm happy with that, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Good. So I don't have any other members wishing to speak. Nope. With that, we've been asked to note the decision at full council on 27th of June 2024, as summarised at paragraph 3.2. We're to agree the timeline of actions as presented in the report at paragraph 4.4 in order to take forward the review of delegations and financial regulations in line with the capital projects gateway approach. And 3, agree that a further report setting out the proposed delegations in relation to the management and oversight of the Council's capital investment strategy for officers be brought to a future meeting for consideration and recommendation to full Council prior to any changes being implemented. So are we happy to note 1 and agree 2 and 3?
Note and agree.
Fantastic.
Noted
Thank
and
you.
agree.
Brilliant. Thank you. I've not been notified of any urgent business. So with that, I'll thank you all for your time.